Hello and welcome to Connection podcast series. I'm Dan Brunton. Welcome to the second part in the series we're recording with Neil Osment from NOA Associates. Today we are going to be talking about the impacts of the COVID crisis and what's happening with reference to shelf-ready packaging production versus e-commerce. So Neil, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. In part one, we started having a little look at a recent article that you wrote that was talking about the changes in the sort of dynamics within shelf-ready packaging and e-commerce. And I'd like to try and do a bit more of a deep dive on this now, if I may. Give us your sort of overviews and thoughts in terms of the impact that this is going to have on the industry, because obviously there will be the changing dynamics in what equipment the plants will be using. Are they invested correctly to actually run these types of packaging? And just because you're seeing your customers for shelf-ready packaging dip a little bit doesn't necessarily mean you can just jump straight into e-commerce, right?
You're absolutely right, Dan. Absolutely right. I think what COVID has shown is that all bets are off, because the swings, the huge swings in the market of certain product types as well as certain market types has been enormous. We talked in the last podcast about if you're in food and drink, you're probably a significant winner. If you're in luxury goods or even food service, they're not. And there's other markets that we've been analysing. And so although overall the market might have been about break even versus last year or just slightly down, actually there's some markets that have dropped enormously and others that have grown significantly. The other thing, the feedback that we're having, and it's much as you've said, the work mix is changing enormously. I've been talking with people who've invested in the latest case makers, and they're going, well, we gave it a good polish today. It's looking really clean and tidy. I mean, that's exaggerating the point, but they're saying that die cut work, flatbed and rotary die cut work is just has been galloping along at pace. The ability to be able to tape into die cut packs, plus the ability to be able to develop the multi-point glue side of things in businesses have been very important, and those have been predictably growing at a steady but rapid pace. Then on the other side, on casework, then it's been absolutely feast and famine, and people have been saying, I don't really understand why this is occurring. And we're starting to delve into that and understand the dynamics of why casework should be having this. The other thing is, we wonder about SRP and online packaging, because traditionally SRP would have been die cut, online packaging perhaps case maker, although it's die cut, glued and taped is a significant part of that mix. And in fact, we talk about MODI in our analysis, and MODI is mail order, distribution, internet, and e-commerce. And we've been analysing that growth of that market over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's become significant, and it's hugely significant during this period of COVID. And within that, what's the work mix of MODI? How much is casework? How much is die cut work? And we're seeing some interesting initial changes, and we're watching trends in that area. So that's important. In shelf-ready packaging, we're wondering about whether people are just getting shelf-ready packaging in order to be able to have the product. Brand owners are saying, oh, we'll make in these products and send them into retailers. And retailers, half the time perhaps, are putting products onto the shelf, and the other half, they're just breaking up the boxes. And already brand owners are going, why are we using this expensive die cut format? So we're starting to hear about changes, and we're aware of innovations that are occurring, and new designs and the such like that are going on with brand owners. So we think, and we've always thought, that this is likely to be that case maker work will be favoured because people realise it's just a distribution outer coming for even to a retailer. So there are some big changes and big trends that are occurring. And just because your case maker is quiet at the moment, does that mean it's going to be quiet for the future, or is it going to be volatile for the future? We've got some answers in that area, so I'm sure we'd be very happy to share our thoughts with people if they wanted to talk with us.
And Neil, you picked up on a point there about the importance of design, particularly when we start talking about e-commerce. I read a fascinating article from one of the design managers at DS Smith, in actual fact, that was talking about even this concept of saving 1 millimeter, where in your designs, the sort of impact that has on pallet loading, etc., cost reduction. Do you think this is an area that maybe the industry needs to accelerate its engagement with the brand owners in terms of redesigning packs for fit for purpose?
Absolutely, Dan. And I think what's is fascinating to reflect. When I started in the industry, I worked for a company called Corrugated, and we always used to say the box is the last thing that people think about. And if you fast track 25, 30 years on, corrugated is a strategic product, and brand owners see it as a strategic product. And why is that? First of all, because of how print and shelf-ready packaging helped to develop the standing. But now it is about design, it's about pallet utilization, it's about how does and as you say, save a millimeter, and you could save tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds within the supply chain. And we have become very sophisticated in the corrugated industry at being able to offer those services. But I agree, there's still a way to go. And some of the design centres that are being set up around the world, and we know some great ones through a large organisation with an Irish background who are fantastic at this, as well as some of the other leading companies. So design is definitely the key area, and innovation. And there's a lot of great designers and great innovators in corrugated.
And it was funny that you mention that particular organisation, because within their innovation sort of hubs, there's been quite a lot of research being done with reference to the sort of negative impact of Instagram influencers when they do the unboxing experience, and they're opening a massive box and taking out a biro, and one of the commentators was saying there's about 5 million videos of people who are pissed off with corrugated packaging. So it kind of brings me on to the next channel of conversation, Neil, in terms of now I'm not sure whether it's even a brand name or not, but right sizing. So what do you see as the future for the sort of the shorter run box making setups, where effectively you're taking stock sheets and cutting to size for suitability? Because surely as e-commerce really continues to gallop on in terms of its volumes, right sizing is going to become critical, surely.
I think this whole thing about, if I would say, personalization or being able to respond to even an order for one box is growing and developing. I mean, we have been undertaking our studies of the corrugated industry for decades, and what we found in the last 10 years, this shorter runs, smaller packs, and the question was always asked of us, how much shorter can those runs go? And we'd say, oh, we'll have a look at the report in 2 years' time, and in 2 years' time, the run length has dropped even more. So, and I think if you look at just Amazon alone, Amazon as a company is astoundingly customer focused, and they say if you want one box, you get one box. And in order for them to deliver a biro in a right-sized box, they're having to work very, very hard with us in the corrugated industry to make sure they can deliver that. And the way to do it, as you say, is on supply on demand. And the number of fulfillment or distribution hubs of people like Amazon that have got machines in there where they make one box is growing. So and the combination of what type of material, and Fanfold is the favoured material for that, plus a machine system. The people that can offer those solutions are the ones that are succeeding. So yeah, for sure, right sizing down to one box.
Yeah, and Neil, very interesting that you picked up there on Fanfold, because obviously, there's been a couple of significant installations recently. I've seen a couple in the UK and in Europe, and of course in America. I know that there are plants that are having corrugators specified just to run Fanfold. So is this suddenly the resurgence of, Fanfold was very popular in the 80s and 90s, but it's definitely had a sort of rebirth, hasn't it? And I think when you start looking at markets like heavy duty and furniture and things like that, I mean, Fanfold looks like it's got a rosy future.
It's very interesting. I agree. I think Fanfold has come into its own, particularly as a result of e-commerce demands and Modi, as I said, Modi that we call it. Within that, we've seen an increasing dialogue with people producing Fanfold from corrugated companies and brand owners. So I think Fanfold is one area, but actually there's a lot of niche markets that are developing as a result of e-commerce. The fitments and fittings inside packaging is a fascinating area, and it almost like under the radar. These things are happening. So there's a lot of niches becoming significant now, and we're being asked to do quite a lot of research on what apparently were small, insignificant niches that have suddenly developed quite well. And Fanfold is one of those, and leading the way, I would say, there's a niche that's developed.
Super. Well, Neil, thank you so much indeed. I mean, just to sort of summarise, we've been looking at the sort of changes in the way that people are producing, whether it's SRP and the growth of e-commerce. But obviously, the one thing to say is that e-commerce was already growing pre-COVID. So those numbers continue to escalate. So, but Neil, thank you so much indeed for your time. Thank you for podcast series number 2. We'll look forward to welcoming you back for series 3. So in the meantime, stay fit and well.